But we begin with the countdown to Election Day. Now, just 8 days away, and early voting is underway in many states across the nation. To help break it all down, let's bring in Galen Druke from ABC's 538. So, Galen, let's talk about the latest on those key races in battleground states like Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Let's start there.
So right now, 538's forecast shows that the race for the Senate is a 50-50 proposition. It almost couldn't be more competitive. And one of the most important states in the entire race for the Senate is Georgia. In fact, our forecast suggests that it's the likeliest tipping point state, which is a fancy way of saying the race that could actually decide control of the Senate. In that race, we've seen that over the past couple weeks, Raphael Warnock, the Democrat, his lead has fallen from about 3 points in the polls now down to about 1 point. We've seen in other really important battleground states like Nevada and Pennsylvania that Democrat standing has also eroded, most significantly in Pennsylvania, where last month John Fetterman, the Democrat, had about a 10-point lead in the polling average. His lead now in the average is just 1 point. And that comes after he had difficulty in a debate last week against Republican Dr. Mehmet Oz, in which he struggled to answer some of the questions. And so we've seen in polling since then an increase in the number of respondents saying that they're worried about Fetterman's fitness for office. And so essentially now all of this taken together shows a 50-50 proposition for control of the Senate this fall.
All right, so our latest ABC News and Ipsos poll shows that half of voters see the economy and inflation as the top issues in this election cycle. How do you see that playing out at the polls?
It's clear when we ask voters that Republicans have an advantage on the issue of the economy. So for voters, it's the #1 issue. And when you ask them, which party do you think would do a better job of handling the economy or inflation today? It's Republicans by oftentimes a double-point margin. And we also see higher levels of enthusiasm amongst Republican voters than we do amongst Democratic voters so far. So folks may be frustrated with the state of the economy and be encouraged to turn out and vote based on it. Now, there are other issues, of course, we can see from the polling that while about half of voters say it's their top issue, there are other issues as well that are coming to the fore, like abortion or gun control or democracy or political extremism. So there are a lot of things that are going to drive folks to the polls. In fact, just disliking one of the parties may be one of those things. But there is no doubt that the economy and inflation and the two parties' plans to tackle them will be top of mind for a lot of voters this fall.
Polls also showing political extremism is a top concern, as you mentioned, for voters. So how could that come into play here, especially in the wake of the attack on Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband?
So throughout this election cycle, 538 has been partnering with Ipsos to ask Americans what the most important issues facing the country are. And we have seen time and time again that political extremism and polarization has ranked near the top. In fact, in our most recent round of polling, about 1/3 of Americans said that it was a concern of theirs. And we've seen in other polling an increasing fear amongst Americans that there may be political violence in the country's future. Now, here's the good news. The vast majority of Americans on both sides of the aisle, 85% or more, say that political violence is never excusable in any form. The bad news is there are small percentages of voters, and in a big country that can end up being a lot of people, who say that it is sometimes acceptable. However, in large part, voters don't like that kind of attitude. And if they view one party as more extreme, are more likely to vote against that party. Now, to be clear, Democrats view the Republican Party as extreme and Republicans view the Democratic Party as extreme. But there's a slight advantage for Democrats in that voters see the Republican Party as slightly more extreme than the Democratic Party.
All right, Galen Druke from 538. Thank you so much, Galen.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.